This is Power Hour with Gabriella Power.
Hello and welcome to Power Hour. I'm Gabriella Power. Thank you for your company. Well, it's once again Donald Trump versus the mainstream media, and the president is not holding back from calling out networks for the narratives that they keep on spinning. Donald Trump sat down with NBC anchor Kristen Welker on Sunday's Meet the Press in what was a combative interview that the president labelled as dishonest.
Prices are already going up on some popular items, tires, strollers.
This is such a dishonest interview already. Prices are down on groceries. Prices are down for oil. Prices are down for all energy. Prices are down at tremendous numbers for gasoline. And let me tell you, when you have the big thing, what he did, he spent like a stupid person, which he was, but he spent like a very stupid person. And that was bad for inflation. But what really killed us with inflation was the price of energy.
And Donald Trump did not stop there, calling out Kristen Welker for not just her questions, but the fact that they constantly fail to acknowledge any positives.
The media is so fake, including, like, even the way you ask questions. Every question is asked in a negative vein. There's a toy company that took a toddler's, whatever, but you don't talk about the fact that gasoline is down at numbers that nobody believes possible. You know why they're down, by the way? Drill, baby, drill. We're drilling like crazy right now.
We try to make sure every question is fair, Mr. President.
Look, every question you ask says a very negative slant.
No, but look, I'm just curious.
I'm fine for responding to you. I don't think you're very difficult at all to respond to be honest with you. But you know what? You should ask some positive things like, sir, it's amazing what you've done with gasoline. Because you know what? Gasoline's big business. A stroller is not big business.
Now, I'm not criticising journalists for asking tough questions, but why is it that when Joe Biden was in power, he was essentially given a free pass? And the mainstream media was complicit in the cover-up, trying to convince you that he somehow was not suffering from cognitive decline. And as we showed you last week, looking at the coverage of Donald Trump's first 100 days, the data shows it was 92% negative on NBC, ABC and CBS. No surprises there. Yet Biden's coverage was 59% positive on the same networks. And just while we're on Joe Biden, it's been revealed today that White House advisors were considering giving him a cognitive test to prove his fitness for a second term, but ultimately decided against it. The book, 2024, How Trump Retook the White House and the Democrats Lost America by Tyler Pager of the New York Times, Josh Jowsey of the Wall Street Journal, and Isaac Azendorf of the Washington Post is set to be released in July. And it reveals that Biden's aides considered a cognitive test, but decided against it, so it wouldn't draw attention to his age, apparently. I mean, we all knew his age and we all witnessed the wheels falling off in real time in what was a huge political scandal where the Democrats and the mainstream media lied to us. It is no wonder that there is growing support when we see Donald Trump calling out networks for their fake news coverage. Ratings are dropping at networks such as CNN, and a new poll has found that Americans still have an insane amount of trust in podcasters such as Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly because they're honest and they're not trying to sell you spin. Joining us now is Washington, D.C. correspondent at Unheard, Emily Jashinsky. Emily, thank you for joining us. It's been a little while since we last spoke, but last week, Donald Trump's team marked the first 100 days of his second presidency. And I want to talk to you about what we can expect in the next 100 days. We know that the president's hopeful Congress will pass Trump's big, beautiful bill, which will include the biggest tax cuts in history. And of course, the border will continue to be a big focus. But what can we really expect in the coming months?
Well, yeah, one of the most important things about that big, beautiful bill, as Trump describes it, is that it goes through what's called reconciliation here in the U.S. Congress. And when that happens, a lot of different political factions try to stuff these bills full of their priorities. So that tax bill won't just be a tax bill. They're also hoping to stuff all kinds of different things that could be funding border security into that bill. It's very, very high stakes. It also will incorporate their industrial policy. Basically, it will be a package of tax incentives to augment the tariff policy. And so those are a couple of things just to come. I mean, we're going to get a lot more specifics on what the deals are that the Trump administration is working out with countries like India, Australia, and Japan, UK, EU in the months to come. So that's huge. But also on the tax cut front, that bill is expected to include all kinds of incentives that would hopefully help by Trump's ambition, bring a lot of jobs back to the United States, especially in critical industries like pharmaceutical manufacturing, auto industry, et cetera.
It's interesting as well. Today, the Department of Homeland Security announced a new self-deportation plan for illegal immigrants where they'll receive a free plane ticket home as well as a $1,000 payment once they're confirmed to have left the country. And the potential airfare for immigrants who voluntarily depart will apparently be costing less than the actual deportation, according to the agency, as the average cost for arresting, detaining and then deporting someone without legal status is apparently going to costs about $17,000, according to the DHS. What do you make of this plan? How successful will it be?
You know, they're going to have to hope that this is enormously successful. And I do think it's a good step in the right direction. Not only did Homeland Security announce that $1,000, basically it's a stipend. As soon as a migrant self-deports and they're back in their country, they will get $1,000, which for many of these trips should be plenty. But again, it's on the U.S. taxpayer, but to your point, still cheaper than what it takes to, by U.S. law, actually detain people. U.S. law does say you are supposed to detain people. That's something that was relaxed under the Biden administration while they await their asylum hearing. And so right now, if Donald Trump wanted to go back to a system like that, it would be incredibly expensive. It also saves the administration all of the resources that it takes to go find people in different cities, often sanctuary cities, all over the country, to fight the legal battles, to go through judges. I mean, the amount of resources it takes per each person is incredible. And so with this app, actually, is the way that you're able to use it is it's CBP Home. So the Biden administration introduced something called CBP One, which allowed people to schedule asylum appointments. The Trump administration has flipped that on its head, and they have used that app, renamed it CBP Home, and allowed people to literally schedule their travel back to their home country. And they used an interesting word in the press release today, which is dignified. They said this is a dignified way for us for each migrant to leave the country. And I think that's a really strong argument from the Trump administration.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Donald Trump is still talking tough, and he's announced that he's planning on reopening the Alcatraz prison, despite, of course, it being closed for more than 60 years. He claims that the world-famous jail will be used to house America's most ruthless and violent offenders. Let's take a listen.
Get the idea for reopening Alcatraz.
Just an idea I've had, and I guess because the judges, so many of these radicalized judges, they want to have trials for every single, think of it, every single person that's in our country illegally, that came in illegally, that would mean millions of trials, and it's just so ridiculous what's happening. And it's long been a symbol, Alcatraz, of whatever it is. I mean, you know, it's a sad symbol, but it's a symbol of law and order. And, you know, it's got quite a history, frankly.
I have visited the prison. It is absolutely terrifying. Is Donald Trump serious?
Well, I think part of the tell was in his back and forth there at the White House, where he immediately sort of started talking about how it was a symbol. And that's similar to what we saw with the deportations. The Trump administration initially used Guantanamo Bay, then sent about a few hundred deportees to El Salvador. But we're talking about a deportation effort of millions of people. So basically, these are drops in the bucket that are meant to function as disincentives and incentives, in fact, for people to self-deport. I think they're looking at something similar with Alcatraz. So Donald Trump has said he's instructing the FBI and others here in the American government to actually look at what it would take to expand Alcatraz. And so that would be, I mean, a massive cost-intensive process. And I honestly think right now it's pretty hard to know how completely serious. You know, you hear him there talking about it's just an idea I had. It's a symbol. You know, I think he wants to symbolically signal to criminals that, and the lawyers of criminals, that, you know, he's less tolerant than other administrations have been. So whether it actually comes to fruition physically, I think is a different question.
Absolutely. He's really pushing ahead with his message that he wants to make America safe again. again. And Trump's also blasted Mexico's president for rejecting his proposal to send US troops to Mexico, accusing the president of rejecting this to help thwart the illegal drug trade because she's so afraid of the cartels that she can't even think straight. Let's take a listen.
So Mexico is saying that I offered to send U.S. troops into Mexico to take care of the cartel. She wants to know, is that true? Do you think I'm going to answer that question?
That's why I'm asking. We'll see.
I will answer it. It's true.
And why did you do that?
Because they are horrible people that have been killing people left and right, they've made a fortune on selling drugs and destroying our people. We lost 300,000 people last year to fentanyl and drugs. They're bad news. Yeah, that's true. If Mexico wanted help with the cartels, we would be honored to go in and do it. I told her that. I would be honored to go in and do it. The cartels are trying to destroy our country. They're evil. And, you know, we had 300,000 people die last year from fentanyl and all of that. We had millions of people brought into this country that shouldn't be here. The cartels brought them in.
Emily, what do you make of the president's comments?
His relationship with Claudia Sheinbaum so far, President of Mexico, has been one of the best relationships, especially among the crucial relationships that Donald Trump has with foreign leaders, because Sheinbaum herself has handled it very deftly. She has been very respectful of Trump, and he, in return, has been very respectful for her. And the relationship has, over the course of these first 5 months of his presidency, been mutually beneficial in a way that we have not seen, most particularly with Canada, but also with the UK and the EU. So it doesn't behoove either party for this rift to be blown up into something much bigger. So Sheinbaum is going to have to be playing this very carefully. Trump, on the other hand, whether this is back-channeled through ambassadors and diplomats, has to understand that Mexican politics, the question of sovereignty, is really critical for Claudia Sheinbaum to continue hammering. She needs to look like she is honoring the sovereignty of Mexico and is not letting the United States trample on Mexico for her own political sake. Now, the other important point, though, is Donald Trump is right. Mexico is essentially a narco state. And for Mexico to be on the border of the United States is also not good for the United States. So he needs that relationship to be strong as well. And as he might say, he really has the cards in this one, though Sheinbaum can be a real boost to his efforts to seal the border and keep America safe as well.
Finally, Emily, we have to speak about Kamala Harris because Senate Democrats are said to be divided over a 2028 comeback by Kamala Harris after she lost all 7 battleground states, to President Trump. And many say that she could still secure the nomination if she plays it right. Now, we saw Kamala Harris re-emerge last week at a San Francisco gala blasting Donald Trump for his first 100 days and sounding a bit like a candidate again with some word salads in there, of course, but no doubt Republicans would want her to run again. What do you make of it?
Yeah, the White House, Caroline Leavitt, said as much last week. She went to the podium and said, we encourage Kamala Harris to keep speaking as much as she pleases, because she's obviously seen as somebody who is a generational political talent, sort of far from it in circles that have analyzed the numbers and what went wrong in 2024 here in D.C. Kamala Harris actually did not even make it to the famed Iowa caucuses when she ran in the Democratic primary in 2020. She is not a particularly talented politician. I will say this does depend partially on who she is running against. It's possible that the Republican field, we have absolutely no idea what happens with Donald Trump and who he appoints as his heir. We don't know. And so it's possible if she's up against somebody that she can convince the country is the lesser of two evils, then maybe Kamala Harris could potentially stand a chance, but she would first have to get through what's already shaping up to be a very crowded Democratic primary, and that in 2028. And that just, it seems unlikely that she would be the standout candidate for voters from any of that at all. It seems funny, actually.
It certainly does. Washington, D.C. correspondent at Unheard, Emily Jashinsky. It's so great to speak to you again. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Joining us now is comedian and commentator Alex Stein. Alex, it's great to see you again. We've heard some wise words from Hollywood actor Sha Penn. He says that President Trump is like a spouse murderer and claimed that there could be a scenario where Trump destroys the world. Here he is on the Jim Acosta Show.
Before Bukele gets to that point where he's dealing with another leader, we should consider worst case scenarios. And I do think it's a reasonable theory that Donald Trump is not unlike the spouse of someone who leaves him perhaps for another, who then murders their former partner because if they can't have her, nobody can. And I think Donald Trump in his solipsism may have that relationship with the world, and that this destruction is in part a power play and also a literal intention of his final out.
You think he'll try to stay on?
I think he might try to destroy the world before he ages out of life.
Alex, of all the insane and delusional rants we've heard from Hollywood celebrities with TDS, this has to be up there.
Yeah, and Sha Penn doesn't look too good. I mean, he looks a little thin. And, I mean, where are we getting our political information from? Spicoli, I mean, from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I mean, Sha Penn is a great actor. Let's not, denigrate his acting career. But on top of his acting career, his political career, his political takes are terrible. So just because he can act doesn't mean that he knows who can run the country. So, watching him have this TDS, this Trump derangement syndrome, kind of makes me feel sorry for the guy. And he's a multimillionaire, one of the most successful actors. So, go figure. It can make a really powerful person very weak by just hating Trump this much.
And President Trump knows this kind of rhetoric is out there. He knows that TDS exists, and he has roasted the Democrats who are still suffering from it. This is what he had to say on NBC.
Some great Republican congressmen and women and senators that love this country, and they're not lunatics like some of these Democrats. What they're doing to the country is incredible. It's insane. There's something wrong with them. They suffer a major case of Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, nothing matters to them other than that.
Donald Trump, he doesn't miss.
No, he doesn't, but he's right, because a lot of the people that are, agree with Donald Trump, they just cannot look past that, and they just have to hate him no matter what. So that is a serious problem in America, this Trump derangement syndrome, that people can actually see that the country is on the right track, but they have this weird thing inside of them that they can never publicly be a Donald Trump supporter. And of course that changed. There's a lot more public support for Donald Trump, but there's still some people that are in that Trump closet that are afraid to come out to their family and friends. So yeah, they have serious Trump derangement syndrome. No matter what he does to fix the system, they will hate him regardless.
And let's not forget, it was less than a year ago that Donald Trump was nearly shot dead on stage in Butler, Pennsylvania during a rally. And today, photographer Doug Mills won the 2025 Pulitzer Prize for breaking news photography with this incredible photograph of the president, where you can actually see the bullet that came within millimetres of taking his life. And I know, Alex, we've spoken about this on our show before, that Trump really showed the world in that moment what a fierce and strong leader he is.
I know, and it's actually scary to look back and think about if that, assassin was just a few millimeters in a different direction, that the whole world would be totally different. So that picture really, it tells a story of triumph. It tells a story of standing up and fighting back. And Trump had an incredible amount of courage to be able to do that. I would be nervous if I just got shot. I don't know if I'd be able to stick my fist up in the air and tell people to fight back. But that incident, as terrible as it was, that was the difference, in my opinion, that won Donald Trump the election.
It was such a crucial moment, and it's a moment that we can't forget. It was not even 12 months ago that Donald Trump nearly lost his life, and what a different world we'll be living in. And despite this playing out for the world to see, there are still insufferable lefties who are happy to go on camera and claim, or absolutely claim, that they still want him dead.
Con artist and a thief, and I hope every day, I wake up every day and pray that he died.
Oh, you don't mean that?
Absolutely.
That's an evil thought to say, though.
I say it.
Don't you want to win based on winning the argument instead of his death?
I want him to be gone out of our hair and our country. He is destroying the entire world.
I mean, Alex, are we ever going to see this stop?
Well, I don't think so, because this is all projection. The Democrats are the party of death and destruction. They're the ones that love abortion. They're the ones that don't, think a baby in the womb is even a life. So they don't care about people dying. And Donald Trump dying to them would be probably their dream come true. But luckily that didn't happen. Luckily, now that Donald Trump is president, I believe that he's going to be 100% safe during his presidency. So these sickos, they go and talk about how, the right-wing conservative people are the bad ones, yet they are always the ones that are caught on camera wishing for the death of other people. And you saw it during the pandemic, and you're continuing to see it with the Trump derangement syndrome that people just cannot recover from.
Well, let's take a look at some of the decisions that Donald Trump is making. He claimed that the movie industry in America is dying a very fast death. And in a post on Truth Social, he wrote that other countries are offering all sorts of incentives to draw our filmmakers and studios away from the US. Hollywood and many other areas within the USA are being devastated. And he is now beginning the process of instituting a 100% tariff on any and all movies coming into America that are produced in foreign lands. Trump is also blaming Gavin Newsom for allowing Hollywood to be destroyed, but this is a bit more of what Donald Trump had to say.
We're making very few movies now. Hollywood is being destroyed. Now, you have an incompetent, grossly incompetent governor that allowed that to happen, so I'm not just blaming other nations, but other nations, a lot of them, have stolen our movie industry.
Alex, what are your thoughts about this, about the tariffs? It's been argued that they could be seen as a defence of American culture and a defence of the film industry.
Well, Donald Trump does need to defend our film industry. I mean, it's called show business, and these studios cannot make any money. They cannot do business in California, so they're moving to places like Texas, where we have a great production, Landman, and Paramount is shooting a lot of movies in this DFW area, and that's helping out people that I know that are getting jobs. So the movie industry, one movie can literally provide thousands of jobs. So it is very important that Donald Trump does whatever he can to bring back the American movie industry, because it stinks. I haven't seen a good movie in the theater in years. I mean, since probably before the pandemic. So Donald Trump taxing other people, I don't know if that helps so much. I think that he really needs to give tax incentives and tax breaks to the production companies that are here in America, because like I said, in California, you're getting taxed to death. It's almost impossible to just rent a street or do anything to get a permit in that state without paying just an arm and a leg. So they do need to help the filmmakers and the production companies 100%.
We've heard from Michelle Obama. She's been complaining again, and this time it is about how expensive it was living in the White House while her husband was president. The 61-year-old former First Lady discussed this during an appearance on this week's The Diary of a CEO podcast. Let's take a listen.
It's expensive to live in the White House. As many people don't know, I mean, much is not covered. You're paying for every bit of food that you eat. You're not paying for housing and the staff in it, but everything, even travel. If you're not traveling with the president, if your kids are coming on a Bright Star, which is the First Lady's plane, we had to pay for their travel to be on the plane. It is an expensive proposition, and you're running for 2 years and not earning an income.
Oh, Alex, I mean, are you shedding some tears for Michelle Obama?
I mean, seriously, how can you be the vice president, or excuse me, the first lady of the United States of America? You get to fly for free, and you're complaining that you have to pay a little bit of money for your kids to fly in the airplane. I mean, only Michelle Obama can find herself literally as a first lady and still be a victim. I mean, it's ridiculous. And yeah, I'm sure there are some costs associated, but all you have to do is write another book, Michelle. They have every single Ponzi scheme set up so that they can enrich themselves. So, the world's tiniest violin plays for Michelle Obama and her expenses while she was living in the White House on the American taxpayer dollar.
Oh, it is absolutely unbelievable, even from Michelle Obama. Alex, I want to talk to you about the media landscape. It's been revealed that more people still hold a favourable view of podcasters such as Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly. According to this poll conducted by Emerson College Polling, Joe Rogan received the highest favourability rating among the media personalities presented to the respondents taking part in the survey. And according to this poll, 16% of Americans have a very favourable view of the podcaster, while an additional 16% see him in somewhat of a favourable light. But, what does this tell you about the media landscape? We see CNN's ratings just absolutely dropping, and I think it just shows people maintain to have that trust in some podcasters because they're being honest, they tell you what they really think, and they're not pushing ahead with some narrative.
Oh, 100%. And it's just a connection. You can actually feel connected to Megyn Kelly. You can actually feel connected to Joe Rogan. Instead of just when you watch something on CNN, they're literally parroting whatever they're allowed to say, written basically by the DNC. So people can tell that authenticity, and they know when they're getting news that's not genuine. So Joe Rogan might not be the smartest guy in the world. I mean, he is a smart guy, but people don't need a brainiac. People want to get their information from somebody that's like them. And Megyn Kelly is somebody that a lot of women want to be like. And Joe Rogan is a UFC expert. I mean, he's one of the most successful comedians. He's an actor. He's somebody that a lot of men look up to. So these people connect with a podcaster more so than the Don Lemons and the Chris Cuomo's of the failed CNN graveyard of shows.
Okay, Alex Stein, thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. Great to speak with you.
Talk to you guys again soon. Thank you very much.
Joining us now is CEO of Giggle, Sal Grover. Sal, thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. You wrote to Peter Dutton not all that long ago, warning him that he would lose the Australian federal election if he did not speak out against gender ideology. You wrote that gender ideology impacts women's sex-based rights, lesbian and gay rights, child protection, parental rights, freedom of speech, and belief and employment rights. You also went on to say, imagine losing your livelihood because you don't believe a man is a woman. I don't have to imagine it. It is happening. And in a cost of living crisis, I have to raise more than $1 million to fight the injustice by Labor. And let's just take a look at how Peter Dutton handled the question of gender during the election campaign.
What is your definition of a woman?
Well, that's a matter, obviously, that's been before the British courts. I haven't seen the detail of the case, and it's not something that I think is front of minds at this election, I think.
Sal, I guess you were right. As someone who is fighting for women's rights, how disappointing was it that the Liberal Party wasn't really strong on this issue?
It was so disappointing because we know that Labor is not going to fix this problem because Labor caused this problem. In 2013, under Julia Gillard's government, the Labor government brought in amendments to the Sex Discrimination Act, taking out the definition of woman and man and adding in gender identity, which made it this muddled free-for-all act where apparently sex means nothing and you can just claim to be a member of the opposite sex and be believed by laws, by courts, by politicians. And so it really is up to a party like the Liberal Party being opposition to do something about it. And it was right there. It was an open goal. Like our two biggest allies in the world are the US and the UK, and they are fixing this problem. I don't think that Australia is going to be the only country in the world left saying that a man can be a woman, but something actually has to be done. It cannot be left up to the citizens like myself to be dragged through courts, paying hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to fight for reality. Men aren't women. We all know this. And to say that it's not at the front of Australians' minds, I think is actually really detached. I'm not naive. I don't think that any politician had to center this in their campaign. There's lots of issues, but voters care about lots of issues. And so this is affecting parents, it's affecting workers, it's affecting women, it's affecting lesbians, and it's time something was done about it.
It's interesting because Peter Dutton was constantly labelled as a kind of Donald Trump throughout the election campaign. But just look at how Donald Trump handled essentially the same question on what is a woman.
What is a woman, and why is it important that we understand the difference between men and women?
Well, it's sort of easy to answer for me because a woman is somebody that can have a baby under certain circumstances. She has a quality. A woman is a person who's much smarter than a man, I've always found. A woman is a person that doesn't give a man even a chance of success. And a woman's a person that in many cases has been treated very badly, because I think that what happens with this crazy issue of men being able to play in women's sports is just ridiculous and very unfair to women and very demeaning to women.
And Trump has been consistent with his position and his language. Here he is again over the weekend referencing gender.
Helps when you know that borders are not racist, speech is not violence, America is good, terrorists are bad. Men can never become women. Police are not criminals, and criminals are not victims.
There's certainly a big difference. Is that what's really missing in Australian politics?
100%. Donald Trump really did change the zeitgeist on gender ideology when he started speaking out about it. For some people, that might be a problem because of the baggage attached to somebody like Donald Trump. My position on that is, I don't really care who wins it. this is just such nonsense. It's such a distraction from important issues. While being an important issue itself, it just needs to be fixed. I personally don't think that Donald Trump cares about women's rights all that much. What he saw was a political win and he took it. The benefit of that is women get their rights back. And so for someone like Peter Dutton, or now just the Liberal Party in general, to not realize that this is such an obvious win for them. All you have to do is say to the other side, what is a woman? What did you do to the Sex Discrimination Act? Watch them squirm and then say, why would you believe them on anything else? Because if you cannot answer such a simple question with facts, we should not believe you on literally any other policy. It's the most obvious lie that a person can tell, especially a politician.
How much support are you receiving on both sides of politics?
In terms of from politicians?
People, everyday people that might lean left, might lean right. How much support is there for this issue?
So much support. I get thousands of messages. My entire legal campaign is funded by regular citizens. In terms of political support, as close to zero as you can get. I get messages every single day from mums and dads and workers and women just saying, I can't speak out about this, I'll lose my job. So I'm supporting you so that you can hopefully be part of what ends it. And so I know that this is an issue. Who are the politicians listening to think that it's not? Or to think that in Australia, we're any different from the US and the UK, that women don't deserve rights down here, or that children can be born in the wrong bodies down here? No. Australia had an opportunity last year with the Tickle v. Giggle case to actually kind of lead the world on this. Instead, it went in the complete opposite direction, and so we have to appeal that now. But in August last year, the Australian Federal Court could have said, of course, men are not women. It would have beaten Donald Trump, it would have beaten the UK. Now we're behind once again.
So, as you mentioned, the federal court judge ruled that your app, Giggle for Girls, had indirectly discriminated against a transgender person, Roxanne Tickle, and of course the appeal will be heard in a few months. How confident are you about the appeal?
I've always been really confident because I actually think that the truth always wins eventually. Sometimes you just really have to work for it. And in this, that's the case here, is really having to work for it. But as I said, I just don't think that ultimately Australia is going to be the last country doubling down on this absolute nonsense lie. And, what has happened in Australia is as I said earlier, a complete muddling of our laws. It's very different to what happened in the UK and the US. They actually got to our laws here. They changed them. However, with gender identity being in the Sex Discrimination Act as it is, it doesn't actually even help the people it's claiming to help. It doesn't help all of these people with gender identities or who claim to be trans or anything. It literally only helps men who claim to be women so that they can override women's sex-based rights for spaces, sports, and services. It doesn't help women who claim to be men. It doesn't help any person who claims to be non-binary. They are all still relying on their sex-based rights. So for anyone to try and say that this is a left versus right issue or a culture war versus people who aren't trans versus people who claim to be are, it's not. This is about reality and making sure that everybody has rights. And because everyone has a sex, the best way to do that is with sex-based rights. Men should never, ever have been given any kind of privilege to go into women's spaces or sports. And so now we have to fix it.
You've no doubt been attacked just for speaking out about this. Can you remind us why you're fighting for it and why it's so important?
Well, in a sense, I never had a choice. I created an app for women not knowing that I was doing so in the one time in human history when anyone was claiming to not know what a woman is. So I was brought into it because of creating an app and attacked from that moment on, attacked still to this day. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter who sort of came into this world during this nightmare. And every time it gets really hard or some people are being absolutely ridiculously cruel, I just look to her and I'm like, I cannot send her out into the world where she does not have the right to say no to a man if that man claims to have a gender identity. I would be a bad mother if I didn't do something about it. So I think it's just, sometimes you don't want to be doing something, but it falls on your lap and you have to rise to the occasion. And so here I am.
Sal Grover, well done on all the work you are doing. Thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. Really good to speak with you.
Thank you so much.
The fallout from Prince Harry's explosive BBC interview continues. The Duke of Sussex revealed that he can't see a world in which he would bring his wife and children back to the UK, and that his father, King Charles, refuses to speak to him over security arrangements in the UK.
There's no point in continuing to fight anymore. As I said, life is precious. I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff. But it would be nice to reconcile.
This interview aired one day after he lost a major court battle over private security arrangements. Let's get the latest from London now, and joining us is royal commentator Josh Rom. Josh, it is great to see you again. What's the reaction been to this interview? Is this yet another betrayal of the royal family?
I mean, first and foremost, good evening from London. Gabriella, it's so good to be back with you. And dare I say, you look absolutely amazing today in Australia, tonight for London. But there is one word that comes to this interview that pretty much absolutely everyone is saying, and that is the word petulance. He looks like a petulant child, once again throwing his toys out of the pram. And you know what? There is so much of this interview that we can dissect and look into that just proves that he's just being an absolutely petulant child. For example, in that one clip that you showed him when he's talking about how his father won't speak to him for the security concerns, there's a reason for that. And it's not just about potential leaks to the media or to a book or in a Sussex TV show or podcast or out to People or Us Weekly magazine. It's actually because Harry is fighting against the Home Office, which is part of His Majesty's government. So per se, if he tells anything to Prince Charles, or if Prince Charles tells Harry anything that's used in evidence against his own government, well, that puts the king and the institution in jeopardy against a constitutional crisis. So there are reasons for this. It's not just chugging on the emotional heartstrings. Again, there is a reason behind all of this stuff. And Harry, and listen, I actually do want to take a slightly nuanced approach with this, because Harry did offer previously to pay for his own security. Now, the Metropolitan Police say that they're not guns for hire and that they don't want to set a precedent. But the one thing that Harry, I think, is correct on is the fact that he was born a prince of the realm. He is the king's son. He cannot help where he was born. He cannot help by the fact that he's a prince. Even if the Duke of Sussex title in the HRH was completely stripped from him, he will always be Prince Harry, no matter what. So therefore, there is kind of that special status where security does need to be taken into consideration. But at the same time, it is taken into consideration on a case-by-case basis when he does come to the UK. And if he does come for a royal event, then of course he will be surrounded by everything, all the security apparatus that goes with that as well. But that's the thing. He says that he's only invited to either weddings or funerals, but yet when he does come to the UK, he complains about the lack of security, but yet he feels, as exposed by the Sun newspaper, that it's totally okay to order an Uber Eats or a Just Eat or whatever. He feels it's okay to order a takeaway brand to deliver food to his house. You know, so there's so much that we can just dissect from this one interview, but all it is Prince Harry sitting down, just being that petulant child. And also as well, just one more thing. When he talks about an establishment stitch-up, but yet provides no actual evidence of an establishment stitch-up, just talking about what people are saying to him. This is what the Sussexes do best. This is the thing. They just drop these huge, sweeping allegations, but provide no actual substantial evidence to back them up. Therefore, knowing the opportunity that they're doing, and especially as well, the day after that he gives an interview saying, this crude statement of, I don't know how long my father has left. Okay, that's also worldwide privacy tour, biggest gig, yet he reveals he reveals he goes against the privacy of other members of his family. Yes, of course. But the thing is, the day after he talks about his kids, Archie and Lilibet, not meeting his father, and bearing in mind they're not going to meet their maternal grandfather either, the day after he does this, Meghan, what does she do? She posts a photo on her Instagram profile of Harry with the kids, Archie and Lilibet, their backs turned to the camera, enjoying this beautiful Californian landscape. So this is them. It is what sources have said. It is kind of like a middle finger to King Charles as well, because they always want to play the victim, yet everything is strategic. And that's the point with the Sussexes.
Oh, Josh, it's not like Meghan Markle to get herself involved. I mean, she posts that photo just hours after the BBC interview. And as you say, there is so much to dissect. And the Sussexes seem to always be painting themselves as the victims here. Prince Harry went on to say that he wants reconciliation with his family. And he claimed that he was willing to forgive his father and several members of his family. It's bold of him, but let's take a listen.
Since 2016, there are things that have happened that I can now forgive. I have moved past that. I can forgive my family's involvement, my father's, my brother, and my stepmother. I can forgive the press to a large extent as well for so many things that have happened. What I'm struggling to forgive, and what I will probably always struggle to forgive, is that a decision that was made in 2020 that affects my every single day.
Josh, it's a big claim after, he was the one that started this fight with his family. He was the one to flee to California in 2020. And you brought up that Meghan Markle posted this black and white image of Prince Harry and their children just hours after the interview, certainly sending a strong message. Jacqueline Magnay wrote in The Australian that Prince Harry's grievance tour is wearing thin. And I think it'd be hard to find anyone who disagrees with that.
I mean, that photo from Meghan Markle, it's literally, I feel like it's taunting the king a little bit, because we know that, or at least it's been very widely reported, that it's taken a personal sadness toll on the king, that he's barely seen his grandchildren twice since they were born, especially with Lilibet. Especially, he may have seen Archie a little bit more previously when they were in the United Kingdom. He was a baby when they went on their tour of South Africa, when they were a part of the royal family. So he may have seen Archie more, but Lilibet, he's seen her maybe once, twice for her whole life. So it's been very widely reported that this has taken a personal toll on him. He's sad about that. His Majesty is very sad. So this picture of them, the kids turning their backs to the camera, that's almost taunting the king of, this is the access that you're not going to have, sort of thing. And I just think it's so cruel. But the one thing that struck me was when Prince Harry was like, there's no point fighting anymore. Life is precious. He, as you said, he started the fight. This was a fight that he started. The royals themselves, okay, if the institution, I don't know if they've briefed against him. I could never say that. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But what have his actual family members themselves said? Absolutely nothing in public. And yet again and again and again, here he is playing the victim. Oh, reconciliation can't come with truth, but I've now found out the truth, blah, 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 but the king won't speak to me, blah, blah, blah. I tell you, both Meghan and Harry speak more word salads than Kamala Harris, number one. But number two, it's just so hypocritical. He's so attention-seeking. It's unbelievable. And this is the thing, and also, there's a royal commentator called Kinsey Schofield, who I know you know very well, who actually made a very good point tonight on Talk TV. And she said, Harry and Meghan, both, one of them is lying, because on one hand, Meghan Markle is going on all of these podcasts trying to paint their life in Montecito as the happiest they've ever been, H&M, the happiest they've ever been. Look at me cooking and putting pretzels in plastic bags and cooking tomato 1 pound pastas, being happy in my honeymoon period that's never ending. Look at me And then you have Prince Harry, who is so sad and is just harking back constantly to the past, constantly complaining about what he can't have, constantly saying that he doesn't feel safe enough to come to the UK. Yet we'll go to a place like Ukraine, bearing in mind, so he feels it's safer for him in a war zone than it is in the UK. And bearing in mind as well, Colombia, one of the drug capitals of the world. Okay, great, safe, very safe there. We could just all walk down the street in Colombia and not get robbed or anything like that, sure. But that's the thing. So both Meghan and Harry are presenting two completely different attitudes. There's Meghan, who's either deluded and thinks life is perfect when it isn't, or is lying, pretending that life is perfect. Or you've got Prince Harry speaking his truth, I should say, and just constantly moaning and in this kind of stage of paranoia all the time, just because he can't get armed guards.
It makes absolutely no sense. But, you know, Meghan Markle, she loves to kind of stuff up every PR thing, even the image between her and her husband. But look, we've got to get to more royal news.
That podcast, did you watch? I couldn't. Gabrielle,
it's too painful. It is too painful to talk about. We're going to have to get you on another time. But we have to talk about. I mean,
just very quickly. I just love how she presents all of these like ideas as if they're her own innovations, as if she's thought it up herself. Like she's going on this podcast, going, "Oh, I'm makeup free. It's so brilliant." Just completely ignoring the fact that Pamela Anderson has done that all the way through the last award season.
It's very cringe, but you know, what else could we expect? Look, members of the royal family have taken part in celebrations to mark the 80th anniversary of VE Day, which of course stands for Victory in Europe Day. The King, the Queen, the Prince and Princess of Wales, their children waved to crowds from the balcony of Buckingham Palace. And Josh, it was Prince Louis. He provided yet another cheeky moment, didn't he?
I just adore Prince Louis. That 7-year-old is one of the sweetest children in Britain. He is so adorable. He always steals the show at every royal event with all of his beautiful expressions, I should say. And bless him, he did not let us down today during the VE Day celebrations outside the palace. There he was dusting his dad's uniform off, cleaning it off for dust. Prince George moved his head, so then Prince Louis copied him, moving his head with just as much flair and style, and then all of his expressions. He is just so sweet. But the one thing is that I want to point out about the VE Day celebrations is this is what the royals do best. They're there in front of huge crowds outside of Buckingham Palace. But the fly pasts on top with the red arrows. And what they're doing is they're, again, after all of this stuff with Harry, after all of the attacks, never complain, never explain, keep calm, carry on, turn up, look absolutely flawless, look absolutely polished, you know, and Prince Harry, he talks about public service and how much he misses his country. Well, these are the guys that are in the country actually doing the public service, wearing their uniform, paying homage to the veterans that have given their lives to this country, whilst Prince Harry is in California just moaning about that he couldn't do that. So this is the thing. Prince Harry and Meghan, they like to taunt the royal family with pictures and sweeping statements and huge accusations and bombshell interviews. But here's the royal family, poised, elegant, keep calm, carry on, professional all the way to a T.
Absolutely, and we keep seeing that time and time again. Josh, before I let you go, we have to speak about fashion's biggest night, which is underway at New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art, with stars hitting the red carpet. This year's Met Gala theme is superfine tailoring black style, and the gala is, of course, a fundraising dinner for the Costume Institute of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Now, we know Rihanna has revealed that she is expecting her third baby with A$AP Rocky, but bring us up to speed on all the action from the Met.
I mean, I love Rihanna. I mean, she previously revealed that she was pregnant at another Met Gala as well. So, of course, she's going to do this. And fans are still waiting for the album that she promised us 5 years ago. But you know what? We love the fact that she's being a mother. She's expecting another baby with A$AP Rocky. Absolutely love this. But I will say, Zendaya for me is a real highlight in this beautiful white suit with flared trousers and a gorgeous hat. I feel that she's doing Blake Lively in a simple favor better than Blake Lively does it, I gotta tell you. Also loved Anne Hathaway as well with the bouffant style hair, slightly kind of, it's a more simplistic look that she went for, especially with this kind of bejazzled skirt with in this kind of striped bejazzled skirt, but it's simple, elegant, chic, bit jaw-dropping at the same time. Heidi Klum, I kind of expected more. She's somebody that always flaunts her body on Instagram, that flaunts her figure, that flaunts her legs. And there she is in a simple black dress with a train. Considering this is somebody that loves the attention, loves a jaw-dropping look, I was kind of expecting a little bit more. But my MVP of the night was Pamela Anderson in this bejeweled gown. And what I love most about Pamela Anderson is, you know, in an interview with me for Talk and Times Radio, she was talking about how wearing no makeup for her, it's a social experiment, and kind of hinting at she's got something to prove, even though her mum herself wishes she had eye makeup on. But what she's doing is notice with this dress, it's completely covered up. It's a floor-length dress. She's got a high neckline, sleeves are covered, but it's beautiful. She's also got cropped hair, again, with this minimalistic style makeup. She's proving that she's stepping out to be the true star and the true actress that she is. And she's proving the social experiment bang on, because behind all the makeup and the sex persona was actual talent. And now that she's stripping all of that away and is going down the more kind of the more chic, traditional, old Hollywood glamour sort of feel, this is where she's starting to be really taken seriously as an actress. And we saw that in her performance in The Last Showgirl. So what I love about this is she's not just stopping after award season. For Pamela Anderson, this is a continuation of this social experiment, proving all of the people that typecasted her back in the day wrong, everybody that underestimated her back in the day. You know, she's proving that, no, I am truly the star that I want and I've always have been. If that makes sense.
Rom, absolutely. We could talk for hours on this program. Thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. So good to talk to you.
So good to speak to you, Gabriella. Thank you so much as always. Always love it. Getting the band back together.
And that is Power Hour. Thank you for your company. Make sure you subscribe to Sky News Australia on YouTube.